name's Greg Jones. I'm the content director for Motorcycle and Powersports News. If you guys joined us for the first panel of the morning, thanks for being here. If you guys just sat down to check out this culture discussion, welcome. We're going to be discussing building a cultural hub, creating a space that both your staff and your customers won't want to leave. And to help me broach that topic with you guys today is David Diaz of Seaver Motorcycles, Derek Osner of Crossroads Powersports, and Angela Hieronimus of Live Oak Dealer Services. So to start this discussion, I wanted to just open it up to the panel to talk about their experience in this industry over the years of things that you guys have seen in the dealership culture-wise that hasn't worked. You know, things that just, maybe it's been a lack of culture or a lack of awareness of what the culture was. Things that turned you off from either working at a dealership or being a customer at a dealership. So
charging me $20 a month to use the coffee pot. That turned me off. I didn't like that at all. Nope.
Rest, needless to say, I don't think we would ever do that to our customers or our employees, so feel free to come over to Crossroads if that ever happens again.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
But yeah, I think just the lack of awareness of your culture in your dealership is probably the biggest thing. I started at a young age. You know, we've been open since '97. I started at the dealership when I was 16, and you know, I could tell you probably half the dealerships out there don't even recognize they have a culture or they're setting a culture for themselves. You know, so having your finger on the pulse of what that is a huge advantage for any dealer that even gives, you know, that tries or wants to care about it.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, the culture of passion is very, very important. Of course, for all the employees to have a certain passion for the sport that brings the knowledge to the sport, and they are now looked at as the professionals to look at for answers, both in the dealership and for the customers. I guess, you know, one thing that I had a big change when I first came to our dealership 34 years ago is individual commission didn't really garner teamwork. So we kind of broke that down a little bit for more of a team commission, and you get more people wanting to help other people move ahead as a team. So that's probably one of the cultures that we made a change for the better of.
Yeah, and before we continue, I do want to elaborate on each of you guys' experience. You know, Angela, you've been in this industry over 20 years, correct? Both working in dealerships and now with Live Oak Dealer Services, going to various dealerships.
Yes.
And Derek, you've also been in this industry over 20 years at Crossroads Powersports. And David, I believe you're the most tenured up here, almost 40 years, 35 years?
Yes, prior to the dealership, I worked with other motorsports entities, tire testing and things like that, so yeah.
And David, I'll start with you. Can you just elaborate on Seaver Motorcycles? It's one of the oldest dealerships in the country, if not the oldest, out there in California.
Well, thank you for pulling the pin on me. I'll try and keep it short. Our dealership started in 1911 in the city of Orange and been in continuous operation since. Just a couple different locations, and our third owner, Evan Bell, still owns the dealership and quite active. We've got a couple of mechanics been there 45 years, and that is mainly due to the culture that Evan Bell created. It's a place that you want to work at, and it's a place you want to do well for. So with that type of teamwork, and I really appreciate that prior message of the North Star. I really like that message of maintaining a North Star, of a positive culture for the dealership, and just as important, if not more important, a positive culture for the customer.
Absolutely, that's well said. And so Derek, you and your dad run Crossroads Powersports. You want to elaborate on, you know, how long that dealership's been around?
Yeah, we opened up in 1997. It turns out, you know, it was a passion project to start with. My father raced motocross back when he was younger, wanted to get into the industry. Then I started racing, and now my son races. So, you know, we're 3 generations deep of racers at the store, and that sets a big culture for everybody that comes in. They know we sponsor racers, we're into racing. So not only that, you also have the street life too, us being in the Philadelphia area. it is a big culture in our industry or in our area for saying that, when you come into the store, we're not just Walmart. You're not just there to buy something. You're there for an experience. And that's what we try to train our customers with.
Absolutely. It definitely is. This is a want, not a need industry, right? So
we say that every day.
Yeah, you got to draw people in. And Angela, like I said, you've worked in dealerships over the years, and now with Live Oak Dealer Services, you're in a whole bunch of different dealerships each year. So, do you want us to elaborate on your experience?
I think when it comes to retaining good employees, loyal employees, there's two main factors: guidance and goals. They have to know what they're working towards, and they have to have enough training and guidance to be able to achieve those goals. That is one of the biggest creators of what we're talking about, of creating that culture that they want to be in, and they want to do the best for, and they want to be there forever. Two of the stores that I've worked for, one was in Arkansas and one in my home area now of Kentucky, they have people that have been there 30 and 40 years. Now, I was really jealous when they got their bonuses because it was year-based bonuses, and mine was too, and I'd only been there 2 years. So that was, and I was like, I worked just as hard as they, but they, So they really took care of the dealers, employees, but also the customers that came through the door, because man, everybody knew that Charles had been there 30 plus years. Everybody knew who he was, and doing that is one of the best things that you can do to keep your loyal employees. Guidance, and make sure that they have goals.
Yeah, no, that's well said. So, all right, so we want to get into this topic of culture, right? And culture at the dealership, and culture in general, whether it's this industry or any industry, is kind of this ominous thing, right? And it's never the same, business to business, dealership to dealership. It differs. Sometimes it's hard to describe. Maybe you have a culture that's not very present, and that's definitely an issue. And other folks, you ask them what their culture is like, and they can go on for days about what it means to them. So that's what we want to discuss, and we want to break it down into your dealership culture for your staff, as well as your dealership culture for your customers, and talk a little bit about whether that's the same thing, whether that's different things. I don't know that there's really a right or wrong answer, but we'll discuss that. So for the panelists, let's start with the culture for the dealership staff. What are some things that really bring that to light? What are some things that make your culture stand out and keep your staff happy and there at the dealership?
Well, a lot of our employees have been with us for 10 plus years, some even 20 plus years, and just making sure you're taking care of your employees in every aspect. It can't just be, here's our numbers, we need to meet these targets. It's, hey, how's your mom doing? What happened here? Their personal life and so forth. Hey, if your kid's into racing, hey, different things here and there, a little bit more personalized than just, hey, you missed your target number this year. How do we fix that? And creating more friends than employees is going to create a much better culture than if it was just guy punching in, punching out every day.
Yeah, absolutely. David, again, you guys are at one of the oldest dealerships in the country, and a lot of your staff have been there as long as you have, or even longer, which is a testament to the culture and staying power of those folks. So,
well, keeping employees engaged is always a kind of a moving target, and we've all been here long enough to see that young, energetic kid that comes in, is so excited about motorcycles. His dad raced, he races, he's so into it. And by the time he gets through that sausage grinder of the dealership, he gets to the other side sullen, pissed off, and really not having any fun at all. And I think being able to identify, especially young people growing up, and allowing them to grow. And sometimes allowing them to grow is not within your dealership. And seeing people wanted to take a college class and accommodating that to let them grow as a person. We had probably the best parts guy in the world. Our store owner showed him how to rebuild an R60/2 engine, and he got into machining, and Next thing you know, he's taking college classes for machining, and he's making well into the six figures right now doing machining, and has nothing to do with motorcycles, but we couldn't be more proud of Sean growing that way. So as well, seeing somebody that may not be happy in parts, and maybe he wants to move on to a different department, trying to identify the happiness or the
Motivator.
the joy of
motivator.
of working there is something that's very, very important.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about some of those examples of, what builds a culture or what defines a culture within a dealership. Angela, you brought up the $20 for coffee being a negative cultural impact.
Maybe five would have been good. No, it was just weird. One day this guy come around, he's like, hey, you owe me $20 for coffee. And I'm like, I what? Just little things like that. And it's a great groundbreaker. But realistically, and both of these gentlemen have spoke to it, making sure when it comes to your dealer employees that they're taken care of, both at work and outside work. I'm still, they've got to have something to work towards goal-wise, whether it's that North Star like they were talking about. In the last meeting, we also talked about, Tom said it, he had a motivational sheet that he worked towards. And knowing what makes that person tick, knowing what they want as far as recognition being concerned is extremely important in creating that cultural hub.
Yeah, you have a lot of different personalities in your dealership, and you really have to segment each person individually. If you try to, tackle everybody as a whole, I think you're really going to, fail. Individually, each department, you have your own managers, the owners trying to deal with the managers, employees, and so forth. So just gathering, it could be something, like we do something stupid at our dealership for RM Fantasy. So we all have group text together and setting our fantasy lineups and, who won, Jet Lawrence just went down for the year, oh crap, it's just a fun little group chat that we have, and it's something that small could spark something very big. And, that's really what you want to look for, even if it's just something that tiny, but it's just something fun to do. Go bowling, do whatever, have just a ride trip somewhere. Hey, it's going to be 82 on Sunday. You guys want to get together and go for a ride? I'll buy lunch for everybody. Literally things like that from a employee culture is great things to do.
I'm also going to say, and this, not for you gentlemen up here, but for a lot of owners, they're absentee owners. And we don't have the leadership from the very top and what our managements are doing down all the way to the lot boys or a salesman or anything like that. So making sure that you are present in your dealership is extremely important.
That's a great point. Definitely, culture is definitely something that comes from the top down. It's imperative, and if that's not happening in your dealerships, that's definitely step number one. A couple of you guys brought up motivators and goals and those types of things for individual employees, and that's definitely important. And Derek, you talked briefly about those little fun things like a fantasy, racing thing and just events that you bring the staff to. But what are some of those other things that you guys have built up within your dealerships that keep people happy? I know you guys have done a lot with things inside the dealership that's beneficial for both customers and your staff.
Yeah, we did something a little out of the ordinary. You might check out the Flat Track Cafe on Instagram. Yes, we opened a restaurant inside our Heritage showroom at BMW in Orange. It's the only one in the country. Doesn't make any money, that's for sure. And learning the restaurant business alongside the motorcycle business is pretty interesting, right down to a minor detail of if you cook raw bacon, you got raw bacon floating through the air and coating your motorcycles. So maybe pre-cooked bacon is a little bit better, those little details like that. Additionally, we like to do things that are really highlighting a certain employee. Our sales manager, Devin Strange, is a track guy. He had a Wera racing license. I used to road race myself, so we like to do track days. We sponsor tracks, track day holders. by giving them motorcycles so that their coaches are out there riding BMW S1000 RRs. Additionally, we identify other people that are in different segments. So since I grew a beard, I'm an adventure guy. So we do campouts and all kinds of group rides all through the year. So then the customers start to identify who's the expert in that segment, whether it's touring or adventure bike or track days and stuff like that. And I like to come back to being seen as the expert in the industry, because they keep coming back to your dealership for that expertise, and that's very, very important. And hey, getting a smash burger or breakfast burrito or fresh roasted coffee in the Flat Track Cafe is kind of cool too.
Yeah, and I also understand you guys have a stage at the dealership where you guys will have musical acts or people come in and speak as well. I've always thought that was pretty cool.
Yes, one of the other neat things, and I have to thank BMW Motorrad USA for a lot of their support in our remodels and their focus on what our dealership should look like in a heritage room, and one of them was creating a live band stage. We've got a stage with big girders and speakers and full lights and a 12-foot movie screen that comes down in the middle. We've got 6 wired microphones, wireless microphones, so we could have this whole symposium on our stage in our dealership. Additionally, we could do like backcountry discovery route movies is what we do a lot of. We have speakers like Sam Manicom, World Travelers, those kind of things. So it's nice to have a stage or an area set aside to do that. We had Nate Kern come in and show the new S1000RR. We had Sean Thomas come in and show the new R1300 GS Adventure. So it's nice to have that as a backdrop, and it looks really nice. So if you got a chance, we're about 5 miles east of Disneyland in Orange County. Come by and say hi.
You guys have literally created a full lifestyle, which is exactly what this is about, how to build a dealership environment that your customers don't want to leave. You have taken, they have food, they have entertainment, they have bikes. I mean, what else do they need?
But you got to remember too, everybody's market's going to be different. So
Absolutely.
what works for him may not work for you, may not work for me. That's why you have to look at yourselves when you get back to your dealership. Hey, am I big in ATV country or snowmobile country or sport bikes or whatever? Find out what your market is needing and be that need for your customers.
Yeah, I'm in Kentucky, so we are all mostly off-road. We've got pop-up parks now that have all over the place. And our local dealer network is actually marketing directly to them, not just in signs, but hosting days. So they'll host their rides and they'll host special events, or they'll host charity events if someone goes down or whatever the case may have you. So yeah, knowing your local market is extremely important in creating that environment.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, like I said at the beginning of the conversation, culture is not the same thing for each dealership. It's got to be different. I think if your culture is exactly the same as someone else's dealership, it's maybe not a good thing. Probably means that you maybe copied something, or you didn't talk to your staff to find out exactly what they're looking for. So that's definitely important. Guys, again, we're on the topic of staff and the culture that suits them. Is there anything else there that you guys want to bring up? Otherwise, we can kind of jump to culture and what it means to customers. Okay.
I think we covered most of this stuff. I mean, obviously separating your employee culture from your customer culture, and really defining what your culture is. I think that's the biggest thing. If you came to this meeting and you didn't even know what your culture was, then you're in the right spot. Go home, take a look in the mirror. Hey, where do I want my presence to be in my area? What can we do to do it? Set a game plan. And so GSD, you guys can understand what that stands for. Get blank done. Create yourself a GSD list.
Stuff. If you didn't know, it stands for stuff. Get stuff done.
No,
That's what I had to tell my son when he asked what GSD stand for. I had to think real quick.
Well, I'm like, well, it's on video. Maybe I should say it. Maybe I shouldn't. So.
Yeah, the videos on YouTube kind of showcase anything, right?
Get shit done, guys.
There you go. There you go. All right, so let's get into the customer side of things. Again, like I said, maybe it's a similar culture as what it is for your staff. Maybe it's something entirely different. let's start there. Is it something that should be similar, or is it something that should be kind of separated? What are you guys' opinions there?
Say the question again.
Just whether your culture for your staff is similar to the culture for your customers, or if they're different.
Oh, 100%. I mean, if your staff isn't passionate about what they're doing, how can you expect them to sell passionate? Nobody needs to come into your dealership. We sell nothing that anybody needs. Everything that we sell is a one.
Yep.
So, I mean, again, if you have a guy that's super excited, like we have guys that specialize in motocross, we have special guys that specialize in, road racing, ATV, whatever, jet skis, what have you. Give them to that guy. This is just from a sales perspective. If I have a guy that knows absolutely nothing about wave runners and maybe he's really good at selling dirt bikes, guy comes in wants to get a ski for him and his kid. I'm not going to give him to the dirt bike guy. We're going to give him to the guy that specializes in that and that rides jet skis and is passionate about, hey man, I was just at the beach this weekend. Oh, this thing's awesome, new 200 horsepower motor and this HO screams. Like, get that customer excited, create that wanting. Create that want from the customer, like, oh my gosh, I need that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Angela or David?
Well, anybody have a difficult customer? Nah, that never happens. How about the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde customer that really likes buying that leather jacket, makes him look really good at the parts counter, and then he's a lunatic at the service counter because you can't wear a brake flush and show off this brake flush? So we've tried to create a friendship with our customers, especially the difficult ones. And when they know you more personally, and you don't have to lay out all your personal stuff, but if you know more about them, more about their family, what they like to do, you can kind of knock them back a little bit on a friendlier note and turn them around a little bit. They're less likely to give you that bad Yelp review or do something else. They're more likely to come to you one-on-one as a friend and as a leader in the industry that they've already come to you multiple times for expertise. So doing things with the customers, I visit the local BMW Riders Club meetings. They have them at our dealership. They do them off-site. I like to talk to them. They're sometimes the most difficult ones, but it's one of those things that the more you interact with your customers on group rides and campouts and things like that, they become part of your dealership culture as well. And when they become part of your dealership culture, you can kind of lean on them to do things too. So maybe you kind of push off that group ride with the BMW Riders Club or something like that. But kind of involve them in your own dealership culture is something that really works for us.
Dude, I think you really nailed it with that. I mean, your customers, obviously the more you get involved with your customers, the more they become your friends. And the more friends you have and the more happy customers you have, they're your best form of advertising. You can have one guy tell 10 guys, oh my gosh, this guy's great, but got one guy that is difficult, we'll call him, he can tell 100 people and write 1 million reviews. So again, just having that friendship-based customer base is huge, and that's all about creating that culture in your dealership to start with. So that's really the root of where it starts, and then you can take it as far as the sky will let you go.
Yeah, and guys, what's the best way to get that feedback? Obviously we're talking earlier about staff. Staff is there. You guys get to have daily conversations with them and what they like and what motivates them, but how do you get that feedback from the customer? What are some of the ways that you guys go about it?
What we did, and we implemented this a couple years back, we stopped commission-based sales in the sales department. So everybody just works off their salary and so forth, and we have some bonuses here and there, but the main thing is nobody is forcing, when you walk into some of these, I always use the used car mentality. We're not a used car dealership. We'll sit there and we could talk 3 hours with you on a motorcycle and have fun about it and so forth and explain every detail because we're not worried about, oh, am I missing a sale over there? Am I missing a sale over there? We work as a team. So when that customer, the pressure's off of them, we tell customers straight up sometimes, listen, I don't work off commission. I'm here to help you with the bike. It doesn't matter to me if you buy this one, or this one. I'm just here to help you find the right one, not what I'm making the most money on. So if you get that kind of, the weight off their shoulders of, oh my God, he just wants me to buy something. I got to make my decision quick. Again, you could really gather that friendship with that customer now, and then they're more, what's the word I'm looking for here? They're more relaxed and they're more comfortable with buying the bike.
Absolutely. Angela, anything to weigh in on there?
Well, if the question is like, how do you get the feedback from the customer? then I want to go back to something very important that he said. You have a lot less negative feedback when you have created a culture where they're more like a friend of the store. And when you have that, you're going to have people are, well, no, man, wait, I know these people. Are you sure that's the kind of what happened? Man, hold on, let me call somebody. I know this guy. And so they're able to help bring down those Karens, or whoever we want to call them, difficults, in the very beginning, because they've created that culture where they know that that's not how this dealership operates. That's not what we do here. So that really helps. As far as more feedback and how you're getting more of that, I mean, ask.
Yeah.
Ask. Put it out there on social media. What do you think about this? Ask your customers in the store. Scan this QR code. Tell me what you think. That's how you get the feedback. It's just by asking.
Yeah, absolutely. You brought up social media. I think that is definitely impactful in this conversation as it relates to customers, because that's kind of the face of the store. That's kind of how people are going to see you guys initially, especially if you're utilizing it well. So I think Angela brings up a great point that you guys got to make sure that you're reaching out to customers in that way. You're talking about your dealership and what it has to offer customers. So you're bringing them into the store in that way. It's a good way to get feedback too.
Yeah, don't take your social media pages for granted. So many dealers just let Thumbstop or whoever just run their manufacturer ads and stuff. Create specific content to your dealership. If there's anything you take out of this week about being here, is create specific stuff for your dealership. Set your brand image, set your store image, I should say, set your store culture. But it could be as fun as, how we were talking earlier about, a PW50 race in the dealership with just two guys pushing them along. It could be anything. Use your imaginations, get creative. If you have like teenage kids, I know my son's really starting to get involved with it now. They're great with this kind of stuff. They'll come up with the things that you think are absolutely stupid, but they'll get you 1 million views. So use everything at your disposal to try to, again, it doesn't even have to be specific sales at your dealership. It literally could be anything.
We did the snow challenge. So it was a Snow Angel challenge, and all of these kids dealerships got involved, karate shops got involved. I mean, it ended up being a huge thing in our area. All of them outside with whatever they wanted in the background, doing the Snow Angel. And oh my gosh, it reached so many people. Something so silly as that.
You remember that ice bucket challenge back in the day?
Yes.
How much money did that raise for charity?
I don't even know.
It's
I
ridiculous,
can't even imagine.
but something as stupid as dumping a bucket of water and ice on somebody.
I think the bloopers
millions.
were more fun though.
Absolutely.
Remember the whole thing fell on their head?
Yeah, I am
and all
not
that kind
an
of stuff?
advocate of dumping
I'm
water
from
on my
Southern
head.
California. What's this snow thing you talk about?
You know what?
Again, know
I
your
would
market.
love for you to come visit us in Kentucky. Come on. Yeah, you have some day. Come visit him too.
Yeah, you can come to Philly. We got plenty of snow every now and again. Yeah. By the way, go Birds. Know your culture, everybody. Philadelphia.
I'm a Bills fan, so I can say that I'm an Eagles fan for the Super Bowl.
That's right. Sorry, we'll take Mahomes down if you can.
My wife's from Philly, so there you go.
I knew I liked you from the beginning here.
Wait, what are we talking about here?
I know,
I'm
right?
joking.
And her name's Karen, so.
All right, something I did want to bring up, because we talked about it in the last panel on harmonizing your dealership between the different departments, is that you got to have this open communication. You got to be constantly talking. You got to be constantly going over the goals and making sure you're doing the right things. I think it applies here to culture as well. So I want to ask the panel, just, how often should culture be a topic of discussion within the dealership? How often should you be talking to your staff, talking to customers about it?
Every day?
Yeah, I was just about to
All
say.
the time? Every day?
It's not so much, I have to focus on culture today. No, you have to focus on communication.
That's right.
If you focus on communication and all your staff is harmonizing, whether you want to call it pillars or what have you, but as long as everybody's on the same page, your culture is naturally going to follow that. And then your image goes along with that culture. So the culture of the dealership is, smooth ran. Not everybody's fighting in the back office and so forth. But again, just work on the little details, start from a little seed and it'll grow into a plant.
But if they are fighting in the back office, that's an excellent YouTube opportunity. Make sure you video it, social media.
Sock 'em boppers in the back
That's
office.
right.
I could be down for that. Eric, you taking notes?
David, anything to add on that regard?
Well, culture of the dealership just becomes part of every conversation. So it just spills into it. And no matter what you're talking about, whether it's getting along with other employees, getting along with the customers, getting the customers to understand how to be decent. It's part of every conversation is the culture of the dealership.
All right, so we brought up the concept of the difficult customer, right? And I want to bring it back to the staff side of things because every so often you get a staff member who's just either not a right fit or isn't happy with the job. But maybe that's a cultural issue. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just a singular thing. How do you guys approach stuff like that? Is that something where you got to really sit down and communicate with that one individual, or is sometimes it just not a great fit?
I mean, typically it's a refocus. Sometimes people just veer off in just one direction so far. You got to bring them back to what your, let's call it the North Star, is for your dealership. It's very easy to have a conversation. Maybe you don't even know, getting back to knowing your employees. Maybe they have something going on in their, lives back home that they haven't discussed with you. Maybe they're going through a divorce or, maybe their kids, anything. You don't know why that employee's acting the way they are until you have a conversation with them about it.
Yeah, I think a big part of it is identifying everybody's strengths. I try not to use the word strengths and weaknesses because everybody has a certain strength. Let's not focus on a weakness. And identifying that strength. I've got a technician, very clearly told me he does not want to do installations of police radios. So guess what? He's a really good double R guy. So I find his strength in working on race bikes, track bikes, and all that, and he's happy over there. If I give him a police bike with a new radio install, the whole week's going to go wrong. So identifying the strength of each employee and feeding them what they're good at, I think makes them feel much better.
You guys ever hear the expression, happy wife, happy life? It's the same thing with your employees.
Absolutely. All right, so I want to bring it back full circle and just give the audience here and the folks that are running dealerships something that they can go home and implement. Again, I think culture can be both, small things as well as big things. So again, what are some of those examples and what are some of those things that you think people should go back home and make sure that they're trying out?
Well, personally, I think you need to decide what culture you want to create. For the store that you own in your local area, you need to figure out what culture would fit and will bring in customers, but also retain your employees. So that's what I would say personally.
I mean, I would go with start off small again. Look at your social media pages. Do you even have one? If you don't have one, it's 2025. Get social media pages, Instagram, Facebook, so forth. Start small. Post any a bike that's been sitting in the dealership for a while. Find out your cost on that thing. Blow it out. Just see if you can get some traction. We did something that was really good. We hired a wedding photographer that really just works on the weekends, doesn't really do too much during the week. So he comes in on the weekdays and takes pictures of all the bikes for us. So that was something that we did that you guys may be able to do in your local area.
That's pretty neat, yeah.
But again, start with your social media pages, build your culture from there.
And just to piggyback on the social media stuff, again, it's 2025. Everyone knows social media, right? So this doesn't have to be something that just one person has to focus on. Involve your entire dealership. Let people get creative. Let people help out. People might be more comfortable with Instagram versus Facebook or TikTok versus YouTube or whatever it might be. So really utilize everybody, and I think it'll go a long way.
Well, I guess I would have to say, listen. God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. Whether we're listening to the customers as to what they need, whether we're listening to our employees as to what they need, and sometimes just grabbing a cup of coffee and getting in the background and just kind of hanging out and overhearing conversations, getting the vibe from certain people, and whether it's an employee or a customer, listen and just look, and you'll pick up an awful lot that way.
That's very well said. Listening is important, and I think it's a great place to end the conversation here. And guys, we do have a few minutes, so if there are some questions out there in the audience, please feel free to ask the panel here or anyone specifically. If you don't want to ask the question in public, we'll hang out for a few minutes here afterward, and you can approach us to ask some questions. So with that, is anyone out there got a question?
Don't all raise your hands at once. Form a line.
All right. Well, guys, we do appreciate you all being here in attendance and listening to the discussion. I want to thank David, Derek, and Angela for being here this morning, and I hope you guys have a good rest of your AIMExpo, and I appreciate it.